The leader of the BNP, Nick Griffin, is here. Welcome to the Daily Politics. Mr. Griffin, who would you say you hated more, Jews or Muslims?
We don't hate anybody. We've got a Jewish councillor, we've got Jewish members, there's no issue with the Jewish community at all. We don't hate Muslims, but we do have a serious concern about the Islamification of Britain.
But you deny the Holocaust?
No, I don't.
Really? So the Holocaust happened?
Of course it did.
And
Absolutely.
6 million Jews were murdered by the Nazis?
There's no doubt that millions of Jews were murdered just because they were Jewish in one of the worst crimes of history, yes.
Well, you said extermination. The tale is a mixture of Allied wartime propaganda, extremely profitable lie, and later witch hysteria.
I have said very rude things about the way in which the Holocaust had been used and abused, mainly by Gentile leftists, to stop sensible debate about immigration. But I've no doubt about the mass murder of Jews.
But you also said, I'm well aware that the orthodox opinion is the figure I just gave you. 6 million Jews were gassed and cremated, turned into lampshades, in your words. Orthodox opinion also once held that the earth was flat. Your words.
It's indeed. And I cannot discuss why I thought those things, why I said it, and why I've changed my mind, because European law does not allow me to. It's as simple as that. So we have to move on from it. But there's no doubt that the Jews were murdered on a massive industrial scale by the Nazis.
Why did your party want British Asian and British black people not to be called that, to be called, quote, racial foreigners?
We accept that they're civically British. But if you say that they're ethnically British or ethnically English, ethnically Scottish, then it denies the indigenous people of these islands a right to have an identity at all. So there's no hostility in saying that they're living in this country, they're entitled to all the protection of the law, they're entitled to play in our football team and so on. There's no hostility against them. It's a simple fact that they're no more English than I would be Pakistani if I moved to Pakistan.
So you can't be black or Asian and be British?
You can be black and Asian, and if you've been born here, lived here, work here, pay taxes and accept our way of doing things, you can be civically British, of course, but you cannot be ethnically British, because that's a matter of being English, Scots, Irish or Welsh.
You know, when the Mayflower went to America, over time they all became Americans. Why can't people who come to our country, who become British citizens, speak our language, fight in our armed forces, why can't they become British? Because
it's the better parallel. Let's say Joanna Lumley was born in what is now, I think, Pakistan, but she is not a Pakistani. She was always English. Similarly, someone whose family came from Pakistan a generation ago, if you go up to places like Oldham, Bradford, they definitely regard themselves as Pakistani. What's more, they are allowed a right of return. They have an automatic right to a Pakistani passport as well as a British one. That puts them in a superior position to us.
So are you saying that Lance Corporal Johnson Bahari, who I've interviewed, a black soldier, Princess of Wales Royal Regiment, he earned the VC, the Victoria Cross, not once but twice for his gallantry in Iraq. He's not British.
He's civically British, with a passport, the right to vote, the right to do everything in this country,
why can't he be British
and to be respected by everybody. Because, well, put it another way.
It's because he's black.
If he went to Pakistan, you would not accept he was a Pakistani. You wouldn't even suggest it.
But over time he could become a Pakistani, just as the British over time became Americans. It's because an Australian coming to Britain, a white Australian, can they become British over time?
Oh, during their lifetime, they'll be Australian.
Yeah, but over time their family can become British.
Assuming that they came from, that their stock, as most Australians is from this country, then in effect they revert to native, yes.
So maybe in the BNP world over 1,000 years a black or a brown person can become British.
Where you're talking about small numbers of individuals, people like Private Bahari and so on, the moment everyone accepts them, yes, of course, they're the same as us, there's no issue, but we're not talking about individuals, we're talking about a huge flood of mass immigration.
Should the Gurkhas be allowed to come and live here?
Yeah. I think certainly all those who've actually been injured or are sick, they should all be allowed to come over here and be treated. Their families should be allowed to be over here for as long as they're alive. And ones who fit in and get jobs and so on should stay, yes.
And the Fijians and other black soldiers who fight for our country, should they be allowed to come to Britain if they want to?
Again, it becomes a question of numbers. You see, 1 in 5 of homeless people in Britain are homeless ex-British servicemen. And if we were to allow hundreds of thousands more people to come into the most overcrowded country in Europe, then you're shutting our people over homes and jobs. So some should, but there has to be some limits.
OK, I had a lot more to ask you, Mr Griffin, but we've run out of time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on the show.